Testing. Testing. Okay, I'm live. Perfect. I'm gonna wait for some reactions. Let's see if you can hear me well. Hello, hello, hello. Ah, nice. Okay. Perfect. So, welcome to another live stream at the Blender Studio channel. So, if you watched the last live stream I did of this character, Michel, from the original version of Cosmos Laundromat, the Gooseberry project, you might recognize this. Okay, so there's plenty still left to do. There was a bit of technical difficulties last time, which put a bit of a break on the entire thing, but it should be fixed now. So there is plenty to do this time. So if you haven't seen the last live stream, so this is a bit of a project on like of me recreating this original concept from David Revoix, which is like this really iconic original concept art of Franck, who was still back then called Michel, the character. There was a bit of like a back and forth on draw-overs on like the design. I wanted to like fix a couple things. Vivian Lilkovsky, our concept artist, she also helped out a lot and made like this final little draw-over. And so there's going to be a little bit of adjustments. I think a lot of people noted last time that it's weird that I'm not doing the mouth as wide as in the original, and I think making the mouth a little bit smaller is going to help with the appeal a lot, because this is actually quite creepy, in my opinion, at least. Opinions might differ on this, but if you look at sheep or a goat and their anatomy, it's actually their mouth is actually not going that wide, and I wanted this to be a bit more believable and neutral. So actually the first thing that I'm gonna do is I wanted to I already morphed the basically this is where I started from. The original base mesh, where I just kind of started with Franck, and then I morphed him into this version, changed the material colors a little bit, just so it matches up a bit more with the original concept art. And I did already do some little adjustments, and I just want to get rid of a couple of these loops, just so the geometry is just a bit more evenly divided. So especially on the nose, I would like to get rid of a couple more. That would be nice. I think like this should be fine. Maybe I'm just gonna add one more back over here, but just nudge it a bit closer to the rest. And then I would like to do the same thing over here, just get rid of some more of these loops, because it's just gonna make things a bit easier in the sculpting on the multi-resolution modifier if it's all a bit more evenly divided, because the brush behavior is just gonna work better. Right now I'm not even using the multi-res, I just have a subdivision surface modifier on this thing. So I'm all good, but it's not gonna be long until I'm actually switching to the multi-res. Gonna go over this with a slide relax brush, which lets me, with shift, smooth the topology a little bit to distribute these faces a bit better. Just a bit of nudging to make it easier to sculpt on this thing. But yes, so far I did already pose Michel a little bit. But in this session especially, I want to put more detail into this, and I also posed the character already. And I do have a couple thoughts. I have some thoughts in mind on how to do this more effectively than how I usually do it. Because usually I'm not starting from a base mesh. This is just a little bit of an extra challenge. I also see already a first question, which graphics tablet do you use? I'm just using I can just hold it up. It's just a basic Wacom. It's like medium sized. It's a Wacom Intuos. But I'm using actually various tablets. On my usual work setup, I'm actually using a Cintiq But it's, to be honest, my favorite tablet that I'm using is just a really cheap one. It's just a Wacom Intuos Bluetooth, medium-sized, which is really convenient to use. And to be honest, I can't really recommend using display tablets for sculpting, because using a display tablet is actually quite like uncomfortable for your neck and your back, and also your arms, depending on the angle of the tablet. So you could try it out, but actually I really recommend just using a normal drawing tablet. If you have any questions, you can just tag Blender Studio in the chat, and I can more easily see it. So I want these sessions to be also a bit of a back and forth, like a QA. But I'm also gonna focus on the sculpt. Is there any plan of using the new line art modifier on the SpriteFright film? No, not really. I remember originally on SpriteFright there was a bit of a discussion on like if we want to use Eevee or cycles, or if we want to use grease pencil for like extra line art on top. But we kind of went away from that because it's not the style of movie that we wanted to make. It's would have been nice to develop these features a bit more, but the main development target for SpriteFright is actually the library overrides, for example, which is a replacement for the proxy system, and asset management, and also just in general our pipeline and workflow and working at the studio on movies. So we already have some priorities, and the line art modifier was not really one of them. Greetings from Pakistan. Greetings. Oh man, I love how this can be watched from basically anywhere in the world. Okay. If you're, I mean, there's also always a bit of a limitation in terms of time zone, but yes, I want to add a bit more topology in general. Yes, especially now that I still have the symmetrical. The sculpt is still very much, I did my best to keep it symmetric for now. So now I can still go in with a slight relax brush. I can add more loops, make this a bit more evenly subdivided. My previous effort was just to morph this into shape, but now that I'm kind of happy with this, with the shape, I need to adjust the topology just a little bit to support what I'm planning on doing with this character. So I think I'm going to add another loop over here. Just smooth over this as well. Yeah, this section over here is a bit weird, but the hair is gonna take care of it. It's gonna block it. Now, since it's symmetric, I can still go into sculpt mode or edit mode and just go into the symmetry settings here and say symmetrize. Bam, perfect. And the way I want to pose this is I want to add a shape key. And that shape key is what I can toggle on and off to actually get the pose or the symmetrical original pose, to sculpt any changes with symmetry, or then without symmetry if I turn the shape key to 1. So this will be an interesting experiment. Might also fail, but only if there's like any bugs that might prevent me from actually doing this. As a Blender artist, have you tried using ZBrush before? Yes, I actually started sculpting in ZBrush a few years back, and then switched over to Blender because it was actually when dynamic topology was introduced as a feature, as an in-development feature even. It didn't have undo at the time, which is really crazy. And that feature just fascinated me so much that I started to get back into sculpting in Blender, and especially in combination with modeling in Blender. And to this day, I think this sort of workflow is still really strong when you want to use Blender. Really just that you can switch between modeling, sculpting, and texturing, and UV editing, and everything just immediately and fluidly. And that just makes it so convenient. There's still even in production, when we're working on the movies here at Blender, there's still some moments when I kind of feel like, ah, man, I wish I would use ZBrush for this particular task. But to be honest, there's also just as many, or even maybe even more moments where I'm just like, I don't even know how I would have done this in ZBrush more efficiently, especially in combination with working with modifiers and that sort of stuff. Crossing my fingers to make sure that your shortcuts will work until the end of the session. Yes, last time, if you watched the previous live stream, it actually, my shortcuts just broke. It was an operating system problem. I should have just restarted, but I wasn't sure if the live stream setup here could handle it. So if it happens again, I know what to do. But sadly, still the screencast keys add-on is broken. So I have to disappoint you that there's still no shortcuts shown on screen. Sorry about that. But yes, I will just select all of these objects of Michel. And what I want to do is I want to actually rotate this so it matches the head and torso rotation over here way better. Like kind of like this. I need to adjust the arms as well. There's still plenty to do, but this is kind of what I want to have here. I think what I want to go for is that the head is actually the thing that is much more aligned by default already. And then the torso, I'm going to adjust that a bit more with the shape key, and then the lower body and especially the tail, that's just going to completely be reshaped. Maybe I'm going to even split the tail into its own object and later re-merge it, which might actually be pretty helpful. So let's just, I want to use the pose brush again. So I'm going to set the pose brush to rotate and twist, and I want to bring this a bit closer inwards. Wow, I don't know what happened to this loop. Seemed like it didn't translate downwards. Oh boy. Oh yeah, I want to get rid of this. So I'm just going to select these loops and press Control X, which is going to dissolve it. And then I can still go into the let's do it in sculpt mode. I can still click symmetrize, and it's going to do the same thing over there as well. I'm also going to go back to the slide relax brush, and I'm going to slide and relax these areas as well a little bit. Just before I'm going to add a shape key, because once I add shape keys, I can't symmetrize anymore. It's just going to break the shape keys. So let's just do this. I'm going to save this again, like a million times. And I'm going to add a shape key, which is the basis, the original shape. And I'm going to add a shape key here and call this pose. Bam. Okay. And another thing I wanted to do as well is I want to actually I want to add another collection over here called camera. I'm just going to add a camera to this. Let's just add it like this. I'm going to full screen this and press Control Alt 0. And that's going to snap the camera to the angle how I looked at the model essentially. And then I want to actually just do it in here. I can just keep this like this. In here, I'm going to go to View and Camera to View. And I'm going to zoom out. So I want to align this a bit more with how the concept looks like. Also in terms of the aspect ratio. So I'm actually going to change the Y. I'm just going to change this to I'm actually not sure, like, I don't know. Let's just change it to 2000 and scale this one down. It doesn't need to be exact like my later resolution that I want to use, but it should be pretty much in line with the aspect ratio that I want to have. Okay, so now I can actually just rotate the camera a little bit. I want to have this aligned pretty much with how it is in the concept. Kind of like this. And then I want to toggle this off, because if you leave it on and accidentally move the camera, it's not going to be, you can't undo it. So this happens to me a lot, and it's a real struggle. So what I actually recommend to you to do is to, once you have an angle of the camera that you like, you go in here and you key the all of these, even scale, screw it. And that means that if you should ever accidentally move the camera, even though you wanted to actually just rotate like this, but you accidentally rotated the camera, you can actually just leave it like that, and you can just switch the frame, and it's just going to pop back. So it's just a bit of a safety net. I don't like how big the camera is. Wait, if I scale it down, does that actually... I'm going to scale it down. I don't think that actually makes a difference. If the scale of the camera actually makes a difference, anyone just correct me. But I'm just going to scale it down, just so it's not in the way. Okay, I can just put this away. And now I can get back to the shape key. So what I want to do is I want to pose the upper body. It's just in general the body now. So I'm going to turn off X symmetry. And I'm gonna use the pose brush to actually pose the character more accurately. But also, let's actually change the branch as well. I want this to be also more in line. Let's see, with how it is in the drawing and the concept. Just so Michel is actually looking at the right spot. So this branch is kind of twisting a bit over here, and he still gets to rest on the branch with his body, with his hoofs, but at least the direction of where he's looking at is actually matching with what he's looking at, like this. I see some questions. Hi, I'm on the Blender Cloud and just want to tell you how much I appreciate all the effort you guys are doing for the storytellers all around the world. Thank you. Yeah. If you're on the Blender Cloud, I love how we uploaded actually another video in the edit folder on SpriteFright, which is a critique, like a commentary from Colin Levy of the current edit of the movie. If you don't mind spoilers, you can actually watch that. And it's highly fascinating, just Colin's take on cinematography of the current layout of the movie and how we could like actually improve it. Really, really interesting content. What theme are you using in Blender? Yeah, basically it's just the default theme, but I changed it a bit. I changed the roundness of all of these buttons, which is actually a property in the settings. And you can find it in here, customizing theme, and then all of these tabs over here. And there's like a bunch of roundness in here in user interface. There's like all kinds of colors. This is basically all I changed. I went in here in user interface and I changed the roundness sliders to 75% and also the color to green instead of blue. So if you're wondering about that, I might actually also at this point add the theme somewhere in the description or something that you can download it. Would be nice. But let's just get back to this thing. So it's a bit tricky. I want to just rotate the torso a little bit to the side like this and rotate the arms. And I'm really using the face sets for this right now. I'm not targeting topology, how it's set to as default. By the way, also, I'm using the Sculpt development branch, which is like really experimental. It's not even an alpha version of Blender. So this has the latest features that Pablo de Barro is working on. So I can actually test it a bit. So don't be confused if there's like a bunch of UI elements that you're not aware of exist, because they don't exist yet. This is all just still hypothetical possibility space. But yes, I'm just gonna also pose the lower body a bit more. Like this, kinda. It's a bit wonky, but I don't need this to be super exact right now. I just want it to be kinda aligned with the concepts, like this. Like this, essentially. Okay, okay. It's looking good. Closer to what I want. But this also means I probably need to... Oh man. I need to adjust some of these things even a bit more. I would actually like to... I can change this to scale and translate. I want to translate the lower body a bit away. Oh. And rotate it just a bit more upwards. It's a bit tricky. Like this. Just so the angle is a bit closer to what it's there. Still doesn't look quite like how I want it to be. Maybe I could do a bit more like this. And it's gonna be a bit of nudging back and forth. Just checking the chat. System specs, I'm actually not sure. I'm just, this is like the recording computer that I usually don't use for work. But the only thing I can really say is it's a Linux machine. I hope it's not gonna be too slow. For my regular work computer, I have like 2 GTX Radeon. I don't, no, I'm forgetting the names right now. I'm sorry. I can't really give information on the specs. Okay, like this. Okay, so I already posted a bit, and now we can see I can slide back and forth between this. I'm gonna keep the head symmetrical for now, because that's gonna be my main focus in terms of appeal, and I want to keep that as simple as possible for now. Okay, I'm gonna select this and actually separate it into a new object, the tail, because I don't want to bother with a shape key on this thing. Oh boy, and it actually messed up over here with this symmetrize. I'm gonna remove the shape key. Actually, I'm gonna use the shape key as the default, to be honest. Because for the tail, I don't care too much about symmetry. Okay, like this. Perfect. I'm gonna do this. Should be fine. Okay, so I want to pose the tail a bit more freely and just completely sculpt on it freely, actually. I'm gonna use the Shift W shortcut. Let's see. Actually, let's see, does that actually work? Now it's not doing it exactly how I would like it to be. But I'm gonna quickly do something weird. I'm gonna scale down the UI because I want to read the status bar for this operator, which is showing a lot of stuff. Because I'm still a bit, I still need to learn a bit more of the like new features for the expand operator. There was supposed to be oh man, shortcuts all are not what I expected. They don't work. Okay, Control W still works too. This is actually a new feature. You can like assign a face set of like a loop to a face set. So I really like this. And And I'm going to do this a bunch of times just because I want to separate... Oh, Jesus. I want to separate this into a few more facets. Like this. Perfect. I see a question. Considering the position and deformation of the tail, wouldn't it be easier to make a new one with a curve? I don't worry too much about it. I think with a curve, it would... I could at least get like a cleaner mesh from the start, but I think I can also just use this. At least now it has the same loop count, so I can immediately connect it back to the rest. So that should work fine. What I would like to try with this is to use the pose segments for the... Oh, like this. And this time actually with targeting topology. Because then I can do something like this. I just need to increase the smooth iterations, like this. I don't like what it's doing with the base. I think I'm actually going to just mask this part off and smooth it, like this. And then it shouldn't move it anymore. Okay, that actually kind of works. Okay. So now let's actually try it with the tail. I'm going to try to pose it a bit. This is going to be interesting. To be honest, I think these are too many smooth iterations. Way too many. Usually I'm used to doing this with like high-res objects, but this is very low poly, so I shouldn't use this many. Kind of like this. And then curving it back upwards. I can also just use the grab brush to push this back. Oh my god. This is not perfect, but I can fix it afterwards, actually. I also really like to use the snake hook brush, to be honest. Because with this brush, I can also... Oh, wait. It's actually auto-masking by facets. Okay, this way I can stretch it a bit more and I can just get the shape that I actually want a bit more closely. I'm going to unmask this and just auto-mask by mesh boundary, just so I'm not deforming this section over here. I'm going to smooth this over and inflate it again, just so I get this like original smooth shape back a bit more easily. Okay. Kind of like this. Okay, okay. There's going to be a lot of tweaking these objects now to get a more optimal silhouette for the pose, because that's going to be a big thing that I will be struggling with. It's going to be on my mind a lot. The arms are actually... It's interesting how different the proportions still are. I think I need to tweak this still a lot. Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. Okay, okay. Okay, I should definitely try not to change the proportions in pose, because that's why I made this shape key. I need to do that actually with in the resting pose. Okay. So now let's actually put this back, turn on symmetry again. Oh, there we go. I want to actually have the shoulders less wide, tweaking some of these proportions a bit more so that they actually align with the design a bit more. Perfect. Also, of course, there's still no music, so if you wonder why it's so silent, just I encourage you to turn on your own playlists in the background if you want to listen to some music. I'm actually still considering if I should make a playlist. Maybe I'm gonna make one. Okay. So there's still lots to do and to consider about the face. This is gonna be interesting. I would actually like to adjust the eye a bit more. Come on. There we go. Oh, okay. Like this. And I like this. Should be fine for now. I'm actually going to put a cast modifier on this. This is an interesting little trick that I'm doing a lot. It's to force the object to be a sphere. Makes it a bit easier to do something like this, where I take this part over here and scale it up in the y-axis. Oh, and I actually want to remove this from the group like this. And now I see like a bunch of things I want to do about the proportions. Like, for example, the eyes should be lower. I'm also going to bring the temporary hair object back. So if I bring the eyes a bit lower, it's going to look a bit more like the concept. Like this. Of course, the eye object also needs to go a bit down too. And it needs to be adjusted to this so they match up. So glad the symmetry is still on. Okay. The ears also still don't match. So I'm going to nudge this a bit forward. There we go. Eventually I'm gonna add a bit of a pose to the ears, I think. That's probably, if anything, the only element I want to pose. Maybe a bit of the expression as well. Oh yeah, I actually want to, yeah, add this over here to as a separate face set, just so I can separate the lower and the upper jaw a bit as well. Awesome. So let's just try this. Now I can, with Shift A, expand the mask over here and include the entire lower jaw. With A and smooth, I can smooth the mask a bit, like this. And now I'm just going to disable overlay so I can see this a bit more clearly what I'm doing. Because the lower jaw still really doesn't match the concept. Oh, Jesus. I'm actually going to clear the mask again. Oh no. Actually, I'm still auto-masking by mesh boundary and face sets. That makes it a bit more awkward. I need to undo this. Oh. What happened to the mask? The mask just disappeared. Oh. Oh. Makes sense. Okay. I'm gonna save. Yeah, I'm gonna actually keep the modifier in sculpt mode for now. I'm gonna make the smile a bit wider. Let's actually select this and put it into local view so I can see some of this a bit more clearly. Also the inner mouth. I want to push this in a bit more, like this. Eventually I'm gonna close this, but for now this is fine. Okay, the nose needs to be higher, that's for sure. Oh man, I don't like this nasolabial fold that just kind of appears here. Eventually I will need to try to get rid of this somehow. I mean, I could try to... Nah, this is just gonna make things worse. this. Demon sheep. A lot of this weird stretching and that sort of thing, I'm gonna adjust that once I'm able to do that in the multi-res layers, I think. I'm also gonna bring the eyes back up. Just rotate them down instead. Once I have the multi-resolution layers for sculpting, I can adjust these things a bit more in detail. Okay. Man, this is still looking really awkward. I'd like to just like kind of push this in. Like this. Need to actually make the face a bit flatter from the front, because otherwise you can't really like the screen right side of the eye. The screen right eye actually might work, but the screen left eye is just really not really that visible from that perspective. So that needs to be tweaked a bit. This is gonna be a lot of nudging. Just finding the right proportions. But I think it's getting closer. I actually right now I wish I would have left the like the state of the model when I started the stream in the file somehow, like as a separate collection. Then I could toggle between. Okay. This is getting closer. Yeah, I'm focusing a lot on the face right now. There we go. I'm actually gonna turn off the face sets. I know where they are, so I don't need to be constantly reminded of them. I'm actually going to... no. I'm going to keep everything as it is. There we go. What's the use of facets? It's actually a handy way of basically storing masks or having selection sets, essentially. So you could immediately point at a facet and just press H or Shift H to hide areas in sculpt mode, which is really useful. Or you could also with Shift A, with the mask expand, you can hold Control and then just like hide certain portions of the mesh immediately. And then like let's say I hide this part based on the facets, I can then smooth it. And it's just a really fast way of creating some masks, or just also working with multiple objects in sculpt mode. So you can just like have like many separate geometries and you can immediately hide them based on what facet is assigned to them. It's I like to compare it to selection sets, actually. Just making it a bit easier to target certain portions of your mesh. Actually, it's one thing I wasn't really looking at, which is a bit confusing, is like I get the sense that this is a bit concave, this area of the face, but on the other side, it's actually really, it has a lot of volume. So that's actually one of the things I'm kind of pushing back and forth right now, and I don't think that really works. The head rotation is still not ideal. So one thing I actually might do is I might actually pose the head as well. So let's put the pose shape key on 1. And this is going to be tricky. Yeah, posing the head is going to be not easy. I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to okay, let's work around this. I'm going to duplicate this, which is only going to be the pose. And I'm gonna take this, delete the pose, just have the base, select all of this, and just change it so that the head rotation is more like what I want. Something more like this. I think that's way closer. Okay, so I changed it, but I still have the original over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select first the original pose, then this one, and say join as shapes. I can then get rid of the original of the original pose, and now I have this in here as a shape key. Which is actually not the result I wanted. Because if you look at this, it doesn't match up. Okay. So both of these need to have the same location, the same transforms. I'm going to apply all the transforms. No, I can't. Wow. Whoa, this is so tricky. Oh, damn. I mean, this is the orientation I want to keep. So I'm going to only change the origin of this. Copy, location. Oh, damn it. It doesn't work. Troubleshooting this right now. Okay, I know how to do this. I can just duplicate this. Just have this over here. Oh, Jesus. A little bit of a geometry over here. I can merge this with this one. Like this. Now they have the same transforms. I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm not explaining this right. I'm trying to keep the symmetry axis that I originally had, but I rotated the entire object. So I'm just trying to transfer the old pose that I made to the new object, like the new rotation that I have there. Like I can just like join as shapes. There we go. That's what I wanted. So this was the original that I made. Ignore the eyes. And then I rotated the entire object. But now I have the old object, the old pose that I made also still as a shape key. Sorry if this is confusing. It's a bit weird of a workflow. I hope that at some point we're gonna get actual real sculpt layers. Oh, I don't want vertex colors. I want vertex groups. Like sculpt layers to sculpt on. So this is gonna be a bit less complicated. I'm just gonna make a mask as a vertex group. I'm still just managing the shape keys. I'm sorry. And now I'm gonna hide all of the facets of the head, like this. All of this stuff. Yes. Actually, I'm gonna keep the neck. I'm gonna assign all of this to this. Like, let's call this pose. Body pose. This is gonna be the body pose vertex group. Okay, so this is gonna act like a mask, the vertex group over here. And then I can assign this over here, and I get the original head back. So now I can work on the head, still with symmetry, with the symmetry intact. And if I want to work on the body with symmetry, I can just turn the slider down, and I can work on the body with symmetry intact. That's basically what I did. I just tried to restore the original thing that I made. Okay, now I can keep working on the head. So one thing I really want is this sort of like curvature over here. This is gonna be pretty tricky. It's gonna be very tricky, actually. So it implies that there's like this curvature on the cheeks, but then when it goes to the chin, it has this like this concaveness. Looking at the lines, it's really interesting. I need to make the snout a bit more sharp. That would be ideal, but without losing the volume. This is so weird. And I am really trying to stay as faithful as possible to the original design. This is what is making this pretty difficult. Because sometimes when you make like a drawing or a painting, you have like a particular shape in mind, but sometimes you're also just kind of abusing the fake perspective that you have, that you can have with a 2D design. You can just, it doesn't matter if it works from multiple perspectives that much. You can cheat a bit of appeal into it. There we go. need to push the smile a bit up again. I'm going to use the snake hook brush for this, because I like how this one gets a bit of rotation. Just need to be careful not to really mess this up, because it can also create these weird indents. Oh man. There we go. Looks so weird right now. It's I've gotten so used to it that like when you're working on a 3D design, it's gonna look awkward for the longest time. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to let's actually save one more time. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of the mirror modifier. I'm gonna Alt-D duplicate the eye and parent it to the to Michel. And then I'm gonna mirror Michel along her own local axis, like this. Then I'm gonna unparent the eye and mirror Michel back. And now I have, instead of using the mirror modifier, I have an actual duplicate of the eye that's using the same geometry. So if I would move this, it's also moving the other eye. The advantage that I have now is I can actually rotate this eye independently. So I can create this expression a bit more like how I want it to be. I can also use, this is a neat little trick that I like. With the new add object tools, I can just use add cylinder. And I can go in here and just create a little eye dot over here. It's really fast and convenient way of creating these little guys. So I could do the same thing over here. Just go in here and holding Shift, I could just create a little thing over there. Bam. And now I have these little fake reflections on the eyes. Bam. Okay. There we go. Go. This is already way closer to what I had in mind. I think the proportions still don't quite align, like the cheek still seems like a bit low. But it's getting close. It's getting real close. Huh. This is really weird. I want to not affect the hooves. I have auto masking by topology on. I don't know why it affects the hooves. Actually, I'm gonna use a different shading setup here. I would like this to be a studio lighting. And it's a bit more evenly lit. I can set cavity to be on. Wouldn't like this. I'm gonna set the distance to be a bit lower, like this. I think this is a bit closer to, like, I'm using matcaps for when I'm working on the sculpt, but I don't want this to be in the, like, the way how I present the sculpt. For presentation, it's actually way better to use like studio lighting, or ideally Eevee, of course. And I think eventually I am going to switch to Eevee because I want to already experiment with some temp lighting. Okay, okay. This is looking kind of good. I would like to adjust the horns a bit. They're kind of competing. It does look a bit weird to me that the horns are actually almost on the same spot where the ears appear. So I would just like to nudge them a bit forward, just so they're not competing that much for space. It just seems a bit more naturally to me to have it like over here. Okay, now I can just tweak the ears a bit more. Something about the... I don't know if I can bring the ears as close as I want them to be. Hopefully. I'm gonna leave it as it is right now with the face and just focus on some other elements, to be honest. Just gonna turn this on. What happened to the tail? Oh, there we go. Now it's correct. The body pose could still have some adjustments. I'm gonna turn off X-symmetry and sculpt on this shape key a bit more. Let's hide this. Okay. Yes, this needs a bit more work. Let's enable auto-masking by mesh boundary, so I don't adjust this part over here. I want to have this stay as close as possible to the original. Okay. Now I want to remove a bit more of the belly. That way I could see a bit more of the silhouette in this thing. Let's just move the... I think the torso is actually a bit more rotated in the concept. So I should try to get that in there. Just cheat it a bit. Just a bit. Oh well. And again, if you have questions, just ask ahead. Sorry if I'm missing anything. I'm a bit concentrated on the sculpt. This is creepy. This is also still creepy, but whatever. There we go. Okay. Okay. I would love this sculpt to work from every angle. So I think I'm gonna put a bit more effort into making sure the pose actually makes sense from multiple angles. That would be super nice. I think I need to fix... I actually need to change this. There we go. How this connects to... how the tail connects to the rest. Okay. There we go. Actually, I want to try something. I want to pose the leg a bit differently. This one. Wonder if I can do that. Oh, it's still using topology. I was wondering what's wrong. Okay, now it's actually targeting the facets. So I can pose this leg a bit differently. Like this. There we go. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna unhide all of this. One of the things that I'm still not getting as much the sense of is how he's hunching forward. So I think I'm gonna adjust this now. It's one of the things that we aimed for with the draw over, that Michel is actually way more, hunching forward to get a better look at these mushrooms. There we go. Okay. Oh man. I think I'm getting more satisfied with the pose at this point. Still a lot to do, but it's getting there. Well, this is way better. Right, one thing I just remembered is that I wanted the tail to be a bit more like it's wrapped around the branch, as if Michel is trying to improve his grip on the branch using the tail. That was kind of the idea behind that, because I felt like that was something that was a bit missing from the original concept from David. And would just make the pose a bit more plausible. Thanks for managing the chat so much, Mike. There we go. Oh yeah, might be helpful. I'm not aware of how to do that actually. Well, we can do it for the next time. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I want to have this point more upwards, hugging the branch up there. Okay, it's getting better. Okay, let's just keep working on something else. I could just keep focusing so much on tweaking the pose that it's endless, but I think there's plenty of other elements missing that I could just as well be working on. For example, the little mushrooms. So there's plenty of elements that still need to be worked out. And I think this is already getting a bit closer. So let's just, how do I best do this? Let's just add a cylinder. I'm going to make this like 12 vertices. Let's just move this up a bit. Okay. Like this. I'm going to put the mushroom right over here. Okay. Already going to give it a color. It doesn't work. Ah, there we go. Okay, perfect. Just a bit of stretching. There we go. Okay, I want to zoom in on these. Okay, I mean, they're fairly simple. So I could just like extrude this, move it down, extrude it again, move it a bit up, extrude it up. Just really make this shape of the little mushroom. There we go. Extrude it again, merge it to center. Like this, add a subdivision surface modifier and smooth shade it. And I'm going to just delete the bottom. And then it just becomes shaping these little guys. Kind of like this, they just need to be a bit more, they need to have more volume. So just move this down, scale it up. Actually, let's move it back up. Doesn't quite match where they are in the concept. They're more like here. I'm making nothing else but mushrooms recently. So many mushrooms. Yes, right now it's very symmetrical, so I need to fix that too. I'm just gonna duplicate this, put one more over here, the other one, and then I can just go in sculpt mode and just morph this a bit more so it has a bit more of an interesting shape. Also directly switch over to this. Really great new feature. Still an experimental one, so it's only in the latest alpha versions. But just with a shortcut D, you can immediately switch between objects in edit mode and in sculpt mode. So I can sculpt on this one, switch to this, sculpt on this. It's really useful. Had actual building, right? Sorry, I don't understand. Blender Studio had actual building. Oh, yeah, we have a headquarters, if you mean that. Yes, we have a building where we work. Some of us. It's a bit of social distancing still. Is anyone in the Blender Studio? Yes, we're basically only using Linux and open source programs. Okay. So that's that. I would like to actually apply the skin modifier on this thing and also the subdivision surface modifier. Let's actually just do it once. Hey, why didn't it apply it? Okay, now. And I'm actually going to add a subdivision, a multi-resolution modifier to this. Instead. Okay, I can still sculpt on the lowest resolution. I like this toggle a lot. It's called Sculpt Base Mesh over here. And it lets you sculpt on the lowest division, so the base mesh, without actually, and while still seeing the highest resolution. So that's actually really useful. There we go. Yeah, like that. Okay. I don't know exactly why multi-resolution. I feel like I've been using the remesher and dynamic topology and all of those features so much that I have not used multi-res in a while. Probably I would rather use the subdivision surface modifier for now, since it's simpler and it still supports all of the sculpting features, but this also works. There's also a lot of advantages in just keeping the base mesh and the subdivision simple for now. So I can just work on this pretty low res object, and I don't have to worry about how to like subdivide it or something like that, or later making I could actually just work with the remeshers. There's nothing really stopping me. I'm actually way more familiar with that workflow, just working destructively with your topology. I see that question a lot, if you should use a mouse or a tablet. There's no reason not to use a tablet, except even if you're low on money, there are like really affordable tablets, like drawing tablets, that you will never need to use anything else. I myself use a really cheap drawing tablet for my own projects at home. So, and there's like drawing or sculpting with a mouse is just, it's not going to get you far. I cannot recommend using a mouse for this sort of work. Tablet can be harder than a mouse in the beginning. Yeah, it's a bit of getting used to. I think it's less getting used to with if you have a display tablet, because then you see exactly what you're doing, and with a drawing tablet, there's a disconnect between looking at the screen and drawing in front of you. So that's a bit weird. It takes some getting used to, but you just get advantages. There's no downside of using a tablet, except in terms of Blender, that you don't have a mouse wheel, I would say. What cheap tablet do you use at home? I use a Wacom Intuos Bluetooth, medium size. It's actually pretty affordable. You can get but I can also recommend looking at the Huion tablets, because they're actually really good competitors to Wacom. So there's actually plenty of options out there on getting an affordable tablet. Man. There we go. Drawing tablet? Yeah, it's just, I mean, drawing tablets are really just these tablets that have no screen, and they are just really, it's really just a touch surface, essentially, with a pen that reacts to it. Yeah, I can really recommend to go for a really cheap one, especially if you still need to get used to it. I started out personally with a Wacom Bamboo, which is like, it's a really old one at this point, I think. But it was marketed as the super simple entry point, and it cost me only like 50 euros or something. But I used that one for years. It never gave up on me. I think it's still working to this day. And I could actually see myself still working with it. Yeah, I should stop with the branch for now. Let's just actually, I want to work on the hair. That's going to be a very important part of the character. So let's just dive right into that. For this one, I'm going to use the remesher. There's no way. So I'm going to, with Shift R, I'm going to set a resolution. Let's just go for something fairly big for now. Control R to remesh. With a mesh filter and smooth, I can smooth it out a bit more. But I want to really just shape it into the general proportions that I need. Okay. So I'm going to split this up into multiple objects. So there's going to be this main one. And let's just, let's see. I'm going to go in here. And on the same, I'm just going to duplicate this object, go into edit mode, and merge everything at the center. So I have this, this single vertex over here. And I'm going to add a skin modifier over here. So I'm kind of like getting like geometry out of this. Wherever there's a vertex or an edge, it's going to create this tube object. Like this. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to duplicate the subdivision surface modifier. So I have one above the skin modifier as well. And what that does is it's going to subdivide this curve as well. This edge, these edges. Then it's going to add thickness with the skin modifier, and then it's going to subdivide that as well. So that way, I can add all of these bigger hair clumps. Once you get used to drawing tablets, bye-bye mouse, even for other software. Not completely. I mean, I'm still sometimes reaching for my mouse, especially when using Blender, because the one thing I'm still missing on most of my drawing tablets is some way of scrolling. The scroll wheel on a mouse is still really useful, especially, I don't know, I used it a lot for proportional editing still, so it's still good to have a mouse on the side. There we go. Like this. Okay. The reason why I duplicated this from the original hair mesh is because then I have the same symmetry options. Like it still has the same rotation and location as the other objects. So I can just mirror this over. That way I can just experiment a bit over here and keep the symmetry intact. Like this. Okay, I would just want to duplicate this object, one version where I don't have the mirror modifier, because then I have the option to add a bit of asymmetry in the middle for now. It's gonna be helpful. Like this. And I'm going to go back into this object over here and just trim away a bit of the volume by just smoothing over it, because I'm going to add a bit of the volume back with these objects. what's the difference between the skin modifier and the solidify modifier? The skin modifier is like, I mean, I can show you. It's I'm just gonna add a cube. I'm gonna save. The solidify modifier is adding thickness. So if I go into wireframe mode, you can see how it's adding like it's adding another side to the object. So if I remove this face over here, you can see how it's adding like an inner side or an outer side to this object. So you need to already have some geometry there, but if you add a skin modifier, it's actually doing something very different. It's adding geometry, basically like a tube on each edge. So, and with Control A, you can then resize these tubes of everything you have selected. So that's how you get like really interesting geometry that you can use as a base to sculpt on. I hope that explained it well. The tube brush, that's still like a concept that is being thrown around, which is something that Pablo is working on. Just a way of having a simpler workflow than making these tubes with a skin modifier. But that still needs to be actually developed. I mean, I'm holding my breath for it. It's gonna be awesome, but it's not there yet. Okay. Now, let's see. I'm gonna just Control M, mirror this. Okay. Yeah, the hair is still a bit of a weird thing. That's gonna need some experimentation. I'm also noticing now with the hair, and I think the head might need some adjustments, or I could try to resize this hair object for now and see how that works, because the proportions still don't quite align with the concept. Man. Kind of like this. Yeah, I want to tweak the head even more. I think I need a bit more space between the eyes and the ear. I think maybe. Just inflate the ears a bit. There we go. Man, the face. Still so tricky. It's getting close, so I'm actually pretty happy with how it looks right now. It just could be way better. Oh, yeah, I see a question. Yeah, Matteo, using the shrink wrap modifier on for these could be useful, but I would actually have to like to just have the most amount of control over this. So I'm just gonna position this by hand. I can actually recommend more to if you want to like shrink wrap it or like snap it to the surface at first, to actually just enable face snapping. And then this is a bit easier to do. But then you would want to have more control. So let's see. I'm going to actually parent these white eye dots to the eyes, so that if I'm rotating the eyes, the white eye dots actually move with it. There we go. Yeah, this is getting more appealing now with the better eye direction. Yes. This is getting closer to what I want, finally. I'm just so used to that that when I'm sculpting something for the longest time, it's just gonna look really ugly. It's just very normal. As long as you can kind of see where you're going with it, it's fine. Because the longer you work on it, the more likely is it that you're gonna actually achieve the look that you're going for. Just needs a bit more time. Just need to keep tweaking it, keep working on it. I'm actually not sure about the head shape here. I might actually just move the eyes a bit further in. Like this. Because I think this is a bit more in line with the original concept. Maybe, I mean, I could eventually go over a bit of Eevee settings, especially for sculpting, but I don't want to use Eevee right now. If you want, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of other videos on like how to use the best Eevee settings, especially for the viewport, just working in Eevee. But I think I'm gonna get to it once I'm actually switching to Eevee, which might not. I don't think it's gonna be this stream. I'm already streaming for like how long? It's like 1 hour 10. Oh wait, I'm actually already streaming for a while. Wow. Yeah. So I don't actually have that much time left. Oh. Okay. But I'm already way more happy with where this is going. I think it needs a lot of adjustment still. Okay, let's keep working on the hair. I actually don't want this this volume to take up this much space. I want to do this manually with these guys. So I'm going to select more of these and duplicate them around. Okay, I'm gonna scale this down, put it down here. These are really supposed to be these small locks that are like coming from down here. And I'm gonna use one of these locks to put them here in the middle. There we go. Again, I want to have these strands over here, these clumps, in the middle asymmetric. Like that. Yes. Oh, I'm actually going to remove this part and add it to this one because I want this to be asymmetric as well. I'm gonna add one over here. These locks are really getting into the body pose, so I need these to be a bit more asymmetric. There we go. It's getting closer to what I want. Nice. Okay, let's actually work on the horns a bit more, because these are actually an interesting challenge, because I think they could be tweaked a bit more, the design of them. But I would like to keep this as close to the original as I possibly can. So I'm just gonna add some more subdivisions in here. There we go. Man, making these horns look good from multiple angles will be interesting. Do you ever use or recommend this hair technique for other stuff like shape blocking or hands? With the skin modifier, I actually recommend mostly to use this for very simple geometry. For hands and fingers, it's really tricky, because what you notice here is it starts to kind of bug out a bit once you have branching edges. So this requires a bit of tweaking to get it right. But for hands, I can mostly recommend to just do it with a remesher, to just freely sculpt it as much as possible. Oh, how do you make the locks of hair? It's edges with like, I can just show this here again. It's just simple edges over here, and then I added a subdivision surface modifier to like make this a bit more smooth. Added a skin modifier to add thickness, like a tube, and then a subdivision surface modifier on top of that to make it all less blocky. And then I'm mirroring it across as well. There we go. Okay, back to the horns. So right now they are looking a bit different. I don't want them to look vastly different than the concept, so I'm gonna bring them in a bit again. And just adding more points over here. There we go. Let's just add this point over here. Actually, I'm going to... No, I'm going to keep the subdivisions over here. There we go. At some point, I'm going to apply the mirror modifier, because I want these horns to be asymmetrical. That makes sense to me. But for now, I'm going to keep them symmetric. go. This. It's tricky. I think I'm going to scale down the pupils even more, just to match it a bit more with the original concept art. It's like one of the struggles that I'm gonna get into. I'm like basing my 3D work a lot on this right now, but I also still want this to be faithful to the original painting. So it's gonna be a very interesting challenge. And I also just now noticed that like this twirl over here is completely disconnected from how it looks like in the original. So I'm actually going to redo this. Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, for the question there, if the stream will be available after. So I guess after it's over, yes, you can still watch it in its entirety. Yes. Okay. There we go. Go. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give myself like 10 more minutes before calling it a day. Okay. think I'm gonna reverse the rotation of this one. At some point it becomes a bit hard to see with all of these curves. I think I'm gonna at least disable the mirror modifier in edit mode, so it's a bit less cluttered. There we go. Is there any common difficulty or challenge when the Blender Studio creates a movie? I think the most common difficulty is that we're not working on a stable release. We're always working in the latest alpha version of Blender. So I would say that's pretty unheard of for like when a studio makes a movie or project. You want to work with a stable version of the software that you're working with. And we are doing the exact opposite. We're working with the most unstable version we can find, so we can actually test the latest features. And yeah, that's basically one of the core principles of the Blender Studio. So, and the other challenge is we're only working in open software. Open source software, so it's difficult at times, but you actually, for whatever task you're looking for, you do have an open source equivalent. Like, I mean, it's not like we're sculpting anything in ZBrush or any other proprietary software. It's all open source. As a painting software, we're commonly using Krita and GIMP, and for vector softwares, Inkscape, and basically whatever we can't do in Blender itself, we're doing in other open source software. It's an interesting challenge, but it's setting a statement. And a really positive one. You basically have all the tools at your disposal to make a movie. The main challenge still is usually time and skill and experience. And of course, one thing that we do have when we're working in Blender is we can immediately call on developers if something breaks, especially something important. So, but we're doing that basically through the same channels as anyone else can. So anyone can commit a bug report and poke the developers that something important broke in the latest version. It's all very accessible. Okay. I'm not sure how good this is with. It's interesting how wide Michel looks. And I would say the face got kind of squashed a bit. I would like to go for something more like the original concept. Maybe I can like... Oh, I should enable symmetry. Oh, no, I don't want to go to wireframe mode. Thank you. think I need to put the eyes a bit back, just a bit, to match the original concept a bit more. It's constantly on my mind right now. How much can I change without losing the original look? How much should I actually change? The hair is already looking a bit different, and that is due to the size of the head, the changes that I made. It's all a bit difficult. Okay, now proportional editing. I'm actually using the brackets keys to change the fall off of the proportional editing. Just because I'm using a pen. I don't have a scroll wheel. I'm actually going to resize the jaw again. That might also contribute a bit to the proportions looking off, because the jaw is going really far back. Yeah, I think that was also something. Okay. Okay, let's actually switch to studio lighting over here as well. Like this. There's still plenty to do on the body, but I like the direction that it's going in with the hair. And with the face. I think this is going to get really appealing. But the pose needs to be adjusted. There's still a bit of weirdness on how Michel attaches himself to the branch. So there's still plenty to do. But I'm just going to quickly open the previous version. And the difference is striking, I would say. Like, this is when I started the stream, and the previous version, and the version that I have now is this one. So it's getting closer. I would say the appeal and the general pose is already pretty close to what I want. And I would just continue in the next stream. So hopefully, I would really hope that by the end of the next one, I have it pretty much where I want it to be. Maybe in between streams, I'm going to add a bit of a temporary light setup or something to make this a bit more interesting to look at and already see like how it's behaving with the lights. But I'll just see you in the next one. Like, this would be basically it. So for the complete series, I'm hoping it would be 3 parts. So this is the second, and there's the third. Maybe I'm gonna do a fourth, but I would at least still keep this on a weekly basis. So I hope this was fun and insightful. And if you still have any questions, you can also leave them over here in the YouTube comments, or you can also go to the Blender Cloud, where I have like a tutorial course. I have a bunch of stuff, and we're regularly posting updates on the latest Blender movie that we're making, the Blender Open Movie Sprite Fright. So check out that and say hi over there, and I'll just see you in the next one. So bye.